schedule today. We have quite a tight schedule today, so without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Her Excellency Zenani Dlamini, South African Ambassador to South Korea. Ambassador Dlamini has a long and illustrious political and business career, which started in 1994 to 1998 when she acted as First Lady for then President Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Her duties involved visits abroad, hosting foreign dignitaries in South Africa, and attending official events on behalf of the Republic of South Africa. After a successful career in business, her attention once again turned to politics when she was appointed as ambassador. She has served in a number of posts from 2013, including the ambassador to the Republic of South Africa in Argentina, the High Commissioner to the South African High Commission in Mauritius, and most recently, her current position as ambassador to the Republic of South Africa to the Republic of South Korea. Ambassador Dlamini, over to you.
Good day, everybody. Ambassador Chu Park, Ms. Rashmi Raghavan, Mr. Kyung Ho Chi, Mr. Loiso Kiabashe, Dr. Che Young Lim, Dr. Kang Wong Kim, Mr. Sun Young, and distinguished guests joining us from across the globe. It is my singular honor to present the welcoming remarks at this distinguished gathering on the occasion of the South Africa-South Korea Trade and Investment Seminar. The Republic of South Africa and the Republic of Korea share a rich history, having established diplomatic relations in 1992. A number of bilateral mechanisms have been adopted by our two sides over the past 29 years. However, the cornerstone of our economic relations remains the South Africa-South Korea Joint Cooperation Commission, which is co-chaired by our respective ministers of foreign affairs. This platform provides a mechanism which allows for bilateral relations, as well as for other issues of mutual concern to be discussed at a ministerial level. To date, both countries have signed a total of 17 agreements spanning a myriad of areas, including trade, investment, air services, energy, science and technology, cultural and educational exchanges in the main. South Africa features as South Korea's largest trading partner in Africa, while South Korea is South Africa's fourth largest trading partner in Asia. Total trade between the two countries has been growing steadily and amounted to approximately $220 million in 2020, with the trade balance in South Africa's favor. However, trade still remains very much commodity-based. It is important as we strive for a mutually beneficial trading relationship to intensify cooperation in value-added sectors, including ICT, infrastructure, renewable energy, services, technology and skills transfer, healthcare, medical equipment, shipbuilding, automotives, and aquaculture, amongst others. I would, however, wish to applaud the significant investments made by South Korean companies in South Africa over the years. During the period from 2003 to 2019, Korean companies invested $231 million into South Africa, primarily in the consumer electronics, automotives, original equipment manufacturing, software, and IT services sectors. I sincerely hope that today's seminar will provide our Korean and global investors with a more informed view regarding the plethora of investment opportunities that South Africa has to offer. Excuse me. Distinguished guests, allow me to assure you that despite the negative economic ramifications brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, South Africa's macroeconomic and political fundamentals are firmly in place. Real GDP is estimated to grow by 5.1% in 2021, with output expected to return to pre-pandemic levels in 2022, a year earlier than projected. This can largely be attributed to an increase in global demand, higher commodity prices, and the easing of COVID-19 lockdown restrictions. Business confidence and investor sentiment has resultantly improved, and we, as government, are acting exponentially to create a dynamic and enabling business environment that will promote greater productive investments in our economy. We have in this regard convened the Trade and Investment Seminar today to share with you the good news that South Africa is indeed open for investments, and we invite our South Korean and global friends to engage with us towards untapping the vast opportunities that our beautiful country has to offer. We have put in place a very attractive bouquet of incentives administered by our one-stop shop within the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. This entity has been established with the explicit purpose of assisting you, our potential investors, with the seamless realization of your investment ambitions in South Africa. Distinguished guests, allow me also at this moment to elaborate on the myriad of investment opportunities that not only South Africa, but the African continent has to offer. As you are well aware, the African continent has proven to provide some of the highest returns or investments globally. The African Continental Free Trade Area also offers you, the discernible investor, with a market of over 1 billion people and a GDP of $2 trillion. A formidable market that simply cannot be dismissed. As I draw to a close, allow me to wish today's deliberations every success and reiterate that as the South African government, we remain committed to creating a business environment that is conducive towards supporting trade and investment. Additionally, as we approach the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations with the Republic of Korea, I sincerely wish to reiterate our commitment to growing our bilateral relations with the Republic of Korea. We are indeed cognizant of the global economic challenges that have been impeding the expansion of our trade and investment ambitions. I am, however, confident that the proven resilience of our economies place us in good stead towards overcoming these woes. I wish to conclude by reiterating the sentiments expressed by Mr. Nelson Mandela during his first visit to the Republic of Korea in 1995, which still ring true today. And I quote, "More often than not, we perceive of distant countries and continents as a world apart, as repositories of cultures at which we can only marvel. Yet as we transcend this narrow outlook, we come to learn that it is more than the technology of the current global village which makes us neighbors. It is above all our common humanity, our common hopes, our common dreams for peace, justice, and democracy." Close quotes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Dlamini, for those very inspiring words. It is now my honor to introduce our next speaker who will be delivering welcoming remarks, Ambassador Chul Yu Park, who is currently the ambassador of the Embassy of the Republic of Korea to the Republic of South Africa. During his 30 years diplomatic career, Ambassador Park has served 2 times in mainland China, 2 times in New York for the Korean mission to the United Nations, and another 2 times in Europe in Helsinki and The Hague. He has also served with distinction in several leadership positions in the Korean Foreign Ministry. These includes, amongst others, as Ambassador and Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations and Director General for International Legal Affairs. Ambassador Park, it's our honor to welcome you today. Over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Program Director, for your kind introduction. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ambassador, loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellency Janani Mandela Dlamini, Mr. Loiso Diabash, Group CEO of National Energy Corporation of South Africa, my dear friend Choi-Young Lim, Senior Vice President for Innovative Nuclear Reactor System, Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so honored and pleased to be with you today at this South Africa and South Korea Trade and Investment Promotion Seminar. My first and foremost priority for my tenure as the ambassador to the Republic of South Africa is to further promote bilateral cooperation in the fields of trade and investment. So I'm pleased to be part of this seminar today, and I think today's seminar is very timely and meaningful because of the following two aspects. Firstly, we are facing unprecedented challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change, which are changing our ways of economic cooperation. Historical facts indicate that a crisis always provides a good opportunity for change and innovation for a better world. Indeed, we are witnessing new opportunities in the current COVID-19 situation. The export of Korean Medicare products and Korean consumer goods on online sites has been increasing in South Africa. Furthermore, to combat climate change, I think there is a huge potential for cooperation between our two countries in the sector of renewable energies and peaceful use of nuclear energy. This will be dealt with in depth later in the main part of our today's seminar. Secondly, the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng province last July caused Korean companies to suffer business discontinuity due to the ramification from looting and arson at that time. I hope that today's seminar will contribute to restoring confidence and encourage Korean companies to invest more in South Africa in the years to come. Distinguished participants, in respect of bilateral trade, statistics show that our bilateral trade has been decreasing since a peak of $5.3 billion in 2011. Last year, our bilateral trade shrank to $2.3 billion. But I think these statistics does not exactly reflect on our actual trade volumes, given that Korean products are getting more observed here in South African market. I discovered that this mismatch between statistics and reality is mainly due to changes within the global value chain. These days, many products of Korean companies are produced overseas in countries such as India, Vietnam, Indonesia, China, and so on. And these products are then exported directly to South Africa, which does not reflect on the trade between our two countries. Nevertheless, I feel that $2.3 billion is a very modest figure considering the potentials that our two countries have in the economic sector. I believe that our bilateral trade can be expanded and diversified much more. South Africa is an important market for Korean companies, and it is even more important since it is always a gate to sub-Saharan market for the Korean companies. Quite many Korean enterprises have established their subsidiaries in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and/or Durban for their business operation, which also constitute their headquarters for sub-Saharan market. Furthermore, as trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement commenced this year, growing number of Korean companies are showing keen interest not only in the South African market, but also in the rest of the African continental market through South Africa. I hope this trend will provide the opportunity to further further promote our economic ties. Ladies and gentlemen, let me turn to the COVID-19 crisis and new opportunities this pandemic has created for us. During the COVID-19 situation, a tactless and virtual way of life has become a new normal, so that consumers are making greater use of online e-commerce market. South Africa is not an exception in this regard. Recently, sales of Korean consumer goods, in particular, Korean cosmetics and clothing, have been increasing in online markets such as Takealot and Superbalist, which are representing South African online platforms. There is no doubt that the rise of Korean popular music, drama, movies has also contributed to it. Notably, Kotra, in partnership with my embassy, hosted the 6th Consumer Goods Showcase on K-Lifestyle in Africa today. I am pleased to attend this event later today and meet South African consumers and retailers today. Furthermore, since the COVID-19 situation started, we have witnessed increasing sale of Korean medical equipment such as testing kits and PPEs in the South African medical market. I had a chance to meet a South African company which is importing COVID-19 testing kits from Korea. The general manager of this company informed me that the Korean products are quite mobile and so work very well even in remote areas. For Korean medical companies, South Africa could become a medical testbed and hub entering into other sub-Saharan countries. In this vein, my embassy has been operating the Medical Korea project to help more Korean and South African healthcare companies to connect each other. Approximately 130 Korean companies participated in the webinar held in June last year for this project. Taking the opportunity of the African Health Exhibition in October this year, my embassy invited Korean companies to participate in the virtual B2B consultations. Distinguished participants, unlike the COVID-19 pandemic, there is no vaccine to combat climate change. It is good news that at the COP26 climate talks, France, Germany, UK, and the US and EU commenced a partnership with South Africa, a $8.5 billion package of grant and concessional finance over 3 to 5 years to accelerate the retirement of coal plant and deployment of renewable energy in South Africa. This funding will be also used for the development of new sectors, such as electronic vehicles and green hydrogen. I think that Korean companies also have an interest in this renewable energy sector, and I hope that bilateral cooperation in this field will be expanded in the years to come. It is our reality that nuclear energy is an important part of the solution to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I think there is also room for cooperation between our two countries in the field of nuclear technology. In this regard, I'm pleased to see that the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, NEXA, and Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute, KAERI, signed the upgraded MOU for further cooperation on October 13 this year. This first MOU signed during my tenure is expected to open ways for further bilateral cooperation in areas such as nuclear technology, medical isotopes, and fluorine-based chemicals. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I would like to emphasize that next year will mark the 30th anniversary year since the establishment of our diplomatic ties between our two countries. I'm convinced that this meeting will create further momentum for the win-win cooperation in our bilateral trade and investment. I conclude my remarks by thanking all the participants for their wholehearted support in organizing this seminar and I'm looking forward to a meaningful and fruitful discussion today. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Park, for those remarks. We are very appreciative. We will now be moving to our first presentation for the day, specifically on South Africa's trade and investment environment. So I would like to welcome Ms. Rashmi Raghavan to start sharing her screen. Ms. Raghavan is currently employed within the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition of South Africa, and she is a senior manager responsible for the advanced manufacturing sector. Her role is primarily to facilitate, support, and engage foreign investors to place their investments in South Africa, to profile South Africa as an investment destination, and to handle investors throughout their investor journey. She represents the DTIC at various platforms, both domestically and internationally, in positioning, packaging, and profiling the business case for investment, as well as showcasing sectoral opportunities in the advanced manufacturing process. In 2020, she was awarded the Standard Bank Top Women Award as a public sector leader. Ms. Raghavan, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Your Excellencies, fellow panelists, and the companies that are on this session itself. It gives me great pleasure to provide you with an overview of the trade and investment opportunities available to South Korean companies and South Africa as a preferred investment destination. In terms of this presentation, I am one of the representatives in the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, working for a division called Investment South Africa. Our role as the division is to be the point of contact for foreign direct investment and domestic direct investment, in that we assist companies throughout their journeys and also help them in their investment life cycles to progress information into projects, and importantly, to strategically connect companies to engage with relevant stakeholders to be advised on policies, the regulatory environment, financial and non-financial support, and support programs in terms of industrial parks and special economic zones. Whilst I'm not sharing the presentation itself, this presentation would be available to all those that are on the session, as well as placed on our various strategic platforms for companies and for participants to be able to access at a later stage. In terms of the DTI and what our strategic objectives are as a country, we would like to facilitate the transformation in the economy to promote industrial development, investment, competitiveness, and employment creation. We also, through divisions within the department, build beneficial regional and global relations to advance South Africa's trade, industrial policy, and economic development objectives. We further facilitate broad-based economic participation through targeted interventions, which I will highlight and communicate to yourselves during the session. Creating a fair regulatory environment is something that enables investment, trade, and enterprise development. And through the instruments that we have in place, we are able to enable that environment so that companies like yourselves can place your investments in the country, and not just in the country, but certainly entrench your manufacturing hub and manufacturing facilities in the country to reach not only the global established economies, but also the rest of the region and Africa. We also promote, and we'd like to promote, a efficient and effective service delivery. And this is through not just the department, but through the services that we offer as Invest SA, which is a division within the department. As Invest SA, one of the things that we always look at, and as a country, our mandate translates into the following benefits for the country. And so it's important that when you are looking to invest in the country as well, that we are critically looking at attracting foreign direct investment. We are looking at the job creation, which is central to all the strategies of government. We're looking at how we can generate the revenue into our fiscus, looking at how we can partner with companies like yourselves to further develop suppliers so that they have the skills, the technologies, and the ability to produce quality products. Looking at technology transfer, because we understand intellectual property may be placed with companies that may be outside of the country, but we certainly want to partner with companies like yourself that can provide that technology transfer to companies within South Africa. Skills transfer, which is another critical element that we look at, and more efficient processes. And as you all rightfully said, climate change and just changes to the environment that are happening at the moment continue to ask us to rethink, reshape, and reset our manufacturing processes that are becoming more efficient and more effective, and looking at the use of alternative energy sources to make our processes more effective. And then the empowerment and establishment of industrialists. And this really is through the partnership model, working with companies like yourselves to be able to work in partnership through joint ventures, or through companies coming in and acquiring South African companies and being able to work together to be able to achieve those shared objectives. Small and medium businesses in terms of attracting investment to be able to bring small and medium businesses into the mainstream of the economy and into the supply chain itself. When we look at investment as well, we look at providing the marketing services, information services, assistance services, and advocacy services itself. But let's look at the economy. South Africa is one of the most industrialized economy on the African continent. It is also the region's principal manufacturing hub and a leading service destination. Of course, there are a number of other reasons that we have in which attracts companies to place their investments in South Africa. We're endowed with an abundance of natural resources. We have a young labor force that you can train, develop, and skill. And we have sophisticated banking sectors and sophisticated manufacturing processes, and also a supportive and growing ecosystem, a hub for innovation, technology, and fintech. We also have a highly developed economic infrastructure. And through this highly developed economic infrastructure, South Africa is committed to continuing to develop this infrastructure. A high level of spending has been put into our ports, rail, roads to enable investment and exports. And an important part of our investment drive is the far-reaching structural reforms that are being undertaken in the areas such as energy, telecommunication, water, ports, and rail. These reforms, of course, will improve the efficiency and competitiveness in bringing down doing business in South Africa, the cost attached to it, but we also encourage greater private investment into our economic infrastructure. We also have instruments such as special economic zones, and we currently have special economic zones across the country, providing investors with targeted investment incentives, preferential tax rates, and export support. These not only provide an attractive manufacturing base for companies seeking to supply both local and international markets, but their value has increased further with the establishment of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which commenced trading on the 1st of January 2021. And as we progress with these special economic zones, these obviously present a number of opportunities, both from an investment and from an export perspective. We also have a number of trading agreements that allow access to market, and we encourage companies that set up manufacturing facilities in the country to be able to identify those particular countries that we already have existing platforms with, that allow for preferential access into those countries, that allow, again, for the entrenchment of the manufacturing hub and the export of our products into the global arena. South Africa's strategic location provides investors with easy access to many markets through these trade agreements that we already have in place, but they also allow for a much larger market and a much larger export market for the manufacturing to go into. And so whilst we reshape and rethink and re-strategize in terms of our investment initiatives and our interventions to be able to attract more investment, South Africa has announced their economic reconstruction and recovery plan, aimed to restore the economy to inclusive growth, of course, following from the devastation and the challenges that have been further created by COVID-19. The plan directly responds to economic impact and immediate economic interventions that will stimulate job creation and expand support for vulnerable households. And 4 areas that have been prioritized is the massive rollout of infrastructure throughout the country, the rapid expansion of the energy generation capacity, which you will hear from other colleagues on the session, the employment creation, and a drive for industrial growth. Of course, the department is also engaged in a number of master plans, bringing together the private sector and the public sector towards targeted interventions to be able to drive and stimulate investment in the country. And we have a number of master plans, including automotive, clothing, poultry, furniture, steel, as well as healthcare that's now in process of being developed. Whilst we are driving industrial growth, of course, we want to support the massive growth in local production and make South Africa exports much more competitive. We have held 3 investment conferences, pledging around 773 billion. And of course, we are looking to your companies and to South Korea to further entrench, further increase, and further expand your footprint in the South African economy itself. These particular initiatives are a part of growing our industrialization effort, and a number of sectoral opportunities have been identified. Whilst this investment mobilization drive is really to attract investment, we are seeing a number of companies coming into the country, partnering with South African companies to further entrench their footprint in South Africa and expand to the region. Whilst we have had priority sectors and sectors that continue to grow within the economy, like clean tech, automotive and components, textile, clothing and footwear, transport, agribusiness, consumer goods, mineral and mining processing, healthcare and life sciences through medical devices and pharmaceutical, chemicals, high-tech and innovation sector, the digital economy, hospitality and tourism, energy and infrastructure. This bodes very well because there's an abundance of opportunities amongst a cross-sectoral diversity of sectors itself. And we encourage, again, the companies to look at your core strengths and build on that mutual synergy between South Africa and South Korea itself. There are a number of attractive opportunities in the provinces and a number of value propositions that will be showcased also through the Dubai 2020, in which participating during the month of February. During the month of November and the next 2 weeks, we will be focusing on digitalisation and healthcare opportunities. And we encourage the companies that are listening in on this particular session to also listen in on that session itself. Whilst we're having investment opportunities, we're also seeing new trends and new opportunities, especially in warehousing and logistics. And as mentioned by our excellencies in terms of e-commerce and digitalization and global business services and the hydrogen and fuel cell roadmap that creates a myriad of opportunities to further strengthen and deepen the value chains for manufacturing in the country. Other support mechanisms that we do have include incentive programs to reduce the cost of doing business. And we have financial institutions, developmental financial institutions that we can facilitate with yourselves on the funding that's required to place your investments in the country. Again, global and local partnerships are critical to this because we believe as your hand-holding partner in the country, we are able to then facilitate strategic engagements to be able to strengthen your business case, to be able to allow you to implement in the country, and to be able to allow you to strengthen your footprint in terms of your manufacturing base in South Africa and expand into the rest of the region. And whilst we have one-stop shops in the provinces, this is really to be able to handhold you further through the partnerships that national government has with provincial and local government to further make it a seamless investment journey in the country. We also encourage companies to go onto our websites because there is a volume and vast amount of information on doing business with South Africa. So you can go onto the website for the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. You can also go onto the website, which is Invest SA, which allows you to look at the value proposition. It allows you to look at the sectoral opportunities. It also allows you to look at the building the case for South Africa as your preferred investment choice. And again, as I reiterate and come to a close on why we should be, there's a number of instruments, there are a number of agencies, and there is a number of departments, including Invest South Africa, that is well positioned to be your partner and looking forward to engaging with you in being your partner through this investment journey. While South Africa is well positioned to become a supplier and already is a supplier of industrial goods and value-added goods to the continent and the rest of the world, we want to be able to increase and enhance and strengthen that footprint. And we can't do it alone. We can only do it with yourselves. So with that, I close with this. When you're thinking opportunity, think South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Raghavan, for that very, very informative and inspiring presentation. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, who is Mr. Kyung Hong Chai from the Korea Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. Mr. Chai is currently the Director in charge of Investment Public Relations Office at the Korea Trade and Investment Promotion Agency. He has a long career working for the Republic of Korea government, specifically in the Korea Energy Agency. Mr. Chai, over to you. You are currently still on mute. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. Hello.
We can see your presentation and we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I am Kyung-ho Che from Invest Korea of Kotra. This presentation consists of 3 parts. First, FDI trends in Korea. Second, why Korea, right side of Korea. And third, introduction of Invest Korea. First, here's a look into trends of foreign direct investment in Korea. FDI is leading the economic development of Korea. As of 2020, 14,516 foreign companies are operating in Korea, and 230 of Fortune 500 companies are invested here. Foreign companies account for 10.8% of GDP, 18.6% of export, and 5.7% of R&D, and 5.6% of employment in Korea. The amount of foreign direct investment attracted into Korea last year stood at $20.7 billion, recording over $20 billion for 6 consecutive years. By the end of the third quarter of this year, the amount of FDI attracted was $18.2 billion, which is a 41.3% increase compared to the same period of last year. Even in the midst of difficulties wrought by COVID-19, foreign direct investment to Korea recorded the second highest in history, including in the areas of K-New Deal, materials, parts, and equipment, and bioindustry. Based on the investment statistic announced by Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy, this chart shows FDI inflows into Korea in the third quarter of this year. Europe takes up the largest proportion, followed by Great China and US. Great China includes China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia. The service sector made up 78.7% of all investment, followed by the manufacturing sector with 17%. The share of manufacturing has decreased for 3 years in a row since 2018. When you take a look at FDI inflows by investment type, you can see that greenfield investment accounted for 70% and M&A investment took up 30%. Greenfield investment was on top in 2018 with $20 billion and has decreased over past 2 years. Here are some investment cases in 2020 and this year. Foreign companies keep investing in various sectors of Korea. Under the difficulties of COVID-19 pandemic, investment projects have been ongoing in Korea. Now, let's take a look at why foreign companies are paying attention to Korea. First, Korea has solid economic fundamentals. Korea made an excellent job of containing coronavirus without imposing lockdown, allowing businesses to maintain their economic activities as usual, even in the midst of COVID-19 crisis. Korea's economic development forecast for this year has remained at a high 4.3%, even when the projection for majority of major economies had been lowered. Based on the last year's statistic, Korea has the 10th largest economy in the world, and with a value of $1.63 trillion US dollars. Also, Korea has 9th highest trade volume in the world. We have maintained the highest sovereign credit rating. Second, Korea has the world's best digital infrastructure. According to the World Economic Forum, Korea ranked first in the world for 2 years in a row for the dissemination of information and communication technology. Korea succeeded in commercializing world's first 5G network in 2019. On top of this, the Korean government is further planning to strengthen the country's digital infrastructure through Digital New Deal policy. As a result, digital-friendly industries are growing rapidly. Third, Korea has an innovative and highly skilled workforce. The Bloomberg Innovation Index, published on yearly basis by Bloomberg, Korea ranks first in 2021, topping the list 7 times in the last 9 years, and Asia's #1 on World Intellectual Property Organization's Innovation Index. Strong protection of intellectual property rights helped Korea to stand as one of the most innovative countries. This is possible on the basis of innovative and highly skilled workforce. Population rate with Korea's tertiary education ranks the highest among OECD member countries. Fourth, Korea is business hub of Northeast Asia. Korea has a broad FDI network encompassing 57 countries, including mega economies like EU, US, China, and the UK. Korea has formed an FDI network accounting for around 77% of global GDP. There is no better test bed than Korea in commercializing new technology and products. Fifth, Korea has many promising industries and a high industrial intensity. In particular, we will increase R&D and investment in equipment for three big cutting-edge industries, such as semiconductors, future vehicles, and bio. And we are developing critical technologies in sectors related to materials, parts, and equipment, and carbon neutrality. Industrial clusters are well established around the country, consisting of both upstream and downstream companies, which help strengthen industrial productivity. Korea is currently engaged in a large-scale national project known as the Korean New Deal version 2.0, centered on Green New Deal and the Digital New Deal. The Human New Deal policy with an aim to strengthen human resources has been added as a new axis. And the local New Deal for balanced regional development has been presented as the basic direction for the implementation. A total of $183 billion will be invested by 2025. Korea will provide numerous new opportunities that will open post-COVID-19 era. Lastly, I'd like to tell you a bit about Invest Korea. Invest Korea is the national investment promotion agency established in 1998 as a part of KOTRA. KOTRA implements the central government's investment promotion policies through three organizations, including Invest Korea. Our 36 overseas offices around the world helps connect foreign investors to Korea. The Investment Consulting Center is in charge of providing administrative support, and the Foreign Investment Ombudsman is in charge of resolving investors' grievances. Through cooperation with the Investment Consulting Center and the Foreign Investment Ombudsman and local governments, Invest Korea provides support and services for those interested in doing business in Korea. Korea has expanding the support system in tax, location, cash grant, and employment for foreign investors. We have been actively solving problems that investors are facing. Invest Korea was chosen as the winner of 2021 UN Investment Promotion Awards among 188 trade-related agencies across the globe. UNCTAD recognized Invest Korea's wide-ranging coverage of health sector on its virtual outreach channels, such as including online tools, sector guides, and reports information. That marks the end of my presentation. Thank you once again for the chance of introducing investment trend and opportunity of Korea. I hope this webinar this seminar will serve as an invaluable occasion to seek ways to grow and develop together. Please feel free to contact Invest Korea with any questions regarding investing and operating your businesses in Korea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Che, for your informative and interesting presentation, and we look forward to continuing close collaboration and partnerships between South Africa and Korea. Our next speaker is Mr. Loyiso Diabashi. He is currently the Group Chief Executive Officer of the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, NECSA, and has been appointed in this position from the 1st of January 2021. He started his engineering career in the automotive industry, where he worked as a production and design engineer. Thereafter, he joined Eskom, the South African utilities nuclear business, working in various roles within the nuclear power business, vis-à-vis engineering operations, maintenance planning and execution, outage management, internal oversight, and project management. He was also involved at the strategic level of the same organization for 10 years. He led and was on advisory structures of the South African government's nuclear new build program initiatives. Mr. Diabashi, we look forward to hearing from you on the South African nuclear energy sector overview. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. van der Merwe, for those kind introductory remarks and words. Thank you very much. Ambassador, Mr. Shuljo Park, to South Africa, Ambassador Mrs. Zenani Dlamini to Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to greet you, and it is an absolute honor and privilege for me to present to you in this platform, just talking about the South African nuclear energy sector overview. Thank you very much. If you could proceed to the next slide. I've got a couple of slides that I will run through very quickly in the allocated time. And really the intent is to give the flavor and not go through the full details of each. But most importantly is just to cover the major nuclear industrial facilities in South Africa, the nuclear energy overview, the Safari reactor, which is our research reactor on our side, the nuclear radioisotopes and products, the nuclear power, which is the electricity side of the nuclear sector in South Africa, and the waste facilities and the conclusions. Thank you. I think it is important to note that with the South African map, that South Africa has got 9 provinces, as we call them, or 9 regions. And of those 9 regions, we've got nuclear facilities in 4 of them. Right, starting at the south, we've got the nuclear power station providing electricity run by Eskom in Cape Town. We also have in the same province the Itemba Labs, which has got some laboratories which are used for some nuclear related aspects. And then close to that in the Northern Cape province, we've got the National Drug Waste Disposal Institute, which is where the nuclear waste is disposed of in the geologically stable environment. And then as we proceed to the northeast of the country, we have again Itemba Labs in the Gauteng region, as well as our national nuclear regulator. And also we have our facility, the one I'm responsible for, NECSA, the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, situated in the Northwest province, but very close to the Gauteng province. So you can see that it's not just a concentration of nuclear related services in one area, it is broad into the country. The next slide, please. Starting with the South African Fundamental Atomic Research Installation, which we call Safari 1, and 1 indicates that there will be a 2 coming. I'll talk about that very shortly. And this is the research nuclear facility that we have in our Northwest facility. The next slide, please. This facility is a pool research type of a reactor, but this facility has transitioned from being purely a research facility in the 80s and early 90s to becoming an enabler in the production of the nuclear radioisotopes, as I will talk about a little bit later. It's been in operation since 1965, and as you can tell, then it's almost reaching its end of life. And at this point in time, if I go to the last bullet there, it shows that with Safari going through this phase in its life, we are working on developing a new and installing a new research reactor called the multipurpose reactor, And we recently had a cabinet approval in that regard, which allows us to move methodically into ensuring that we get into a commercial process and do the construction and the installation in the short while. But the currently operational reactor has got so many certifications as it is expected for nuclear facilities, both locally and abroad. And it is internationally recognized for high utilization in that it operates for more than 300 days per year. And this is quite an impeccable record that South Africa actually holds at this point in time. Most of these research reactors have been utilizing, in some instances, the highly enriched uranium fuel, but with the world transitioning towards the low enriched uranium, which is called the LEU, South Africa has been at the leading forefront of ensuring that transition happens. And our research reactor is fully operational with low enriched uranium at this point in time. And if we can just move on to the next slide, I will cover the product and the value chain that we have. Ours is a classical case of beneficiation of minerals, because we have as an input, the nuclear fuel and the LEU target plates, which you've got your typical steel plates with the uranium as a resource, as a natural resource. It goes into the research reactor or the irradiation reactor. And then what comes out of that with the target plates is a whole host of isotopes that are taken for multi-uses. As you can see, the tertiary uses in the radiopharmaceuticals in terms of the end use, and also some services in the irradiation of specific materials for electronics, for example. So there is a very good value chain which allows our reactor to be used both for research and commercial operations. The next slide, please. Just illustratively, we show the type of items and isotopes that are produced as an output of that reactor. And we utilize very strongly our subsidiary called Nuclear Technology Products, NTP, to harvest these and sell them to the global players. These are materials such as molybdenum, iodine, iridium, cesium, cobalt, and these are used for multiple purposes, some for industrial purposes, diagnostic services, some as input materials, as they call them, active pharmaceutical ingredients for cancer detection and cancer therapy. And also we have some of those services which we call the neutron transmission doping of silicon. And this is used highly in the electronics industry. We do get some products that come our way for us to irradiate for the international use. And we are strengthening our role in this field, and we want to expand our products and services as we move forward. I will not cover the full extent that is shown in front of you. The next one slide, please. And as you can see, we do have close collaborations with some academic hospitals in the country, notably Steve Biko Academic Hospital, wherein the professors and the doctors do use our products. And we definitely actually play a very active role in ensuring that the nuclear medicine Thanks. Next slide. Thank you. And then as we move into the nuclear power sector, as I've said, the southwestern part of the country, we've got 2 units that were commissioned in 1984 and 85. We've got 2 units, apologies for that typo, 2 units each of 900 megawatts, and a total of 1,800 megawatts, operated by Eskom Holdings. These units actually play a very significant role, because those who understand the industry, the electrical industry of South Africa, is that there's a huge concentration of coal stations in the northeastern part of the country, and 1,400, 1,500 kilometers down the line, there is really not much of baseload generation. And the grid is balanced by these 2 units in the southwestern part of the country. So it is actually quite a mean effort to manage the grid, but these 2 nuclear reactors, which are quite reliable and have got a high level of availability, provide that stabilization effect to the grid and the balancing effect. And it's important to note that we've got an integrated resource plan for electricity in the country, and the custodian is our Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And amongst the energy mix that is being called for, there is 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy that is required to be in the grid. And it calls for urgent plans and preparations to proceed for deploying nuclear to the value of 2,500 megawatts. And it's important that in terms of the plans, Eskom as the owner, as the operator, has applied for various permits from the respective regulators. We've got two regulators in the nuclear energy space. One being in terms of the environment and the siting of nuclear plants. One being the Department of Environmental Affairs. And the other one also being the National Nuclear Regulator, which plays an active role in regulating all the nuclear installations in the country. And quite interestingly, next week there will be public hearings as they pertain to the application to the National Nuclear Regulator. So we need to watch the space very carefully. And with these plans and this 2,500 megawatts that is spoken of, our Department of Mineral Resources and Energy is working in ensuring that they provide a clear guideline and processes to make sure that the process of procurement will get on course. So I think it's important to state that nuclear power plays a crucial role in the carbon-free power system. And this is based on what we are seeing from what the two Koeberg power station units, which are commissioned in the mid-80s, how they are playing that role and what it is that they are doing in terms of when you compare the installed capacity versus the energy generated and utilized by the end user in the system. And that nuclear is actually quite, there is no carbon emissions related to it. It's very insignificant compared to any of the technologies you can think about. And the availability speaks for itself. The next slide, please. There is a debate around the nuclear waste because it always becomes an issue with the nuclear debate. It's important to note that the nuclear waste is categorized in different forms, and there is low level and medium level waste, which if you can move to the next slide, which is actually put in a dry, geologically stable environment in the Northern Cape. And we are currently, as NEXA, operating those facilities, but the mandate is shifting to the National Red Waste Disposal Institute. However, the nuclear fuel, both for the Koeberg plant as well as our Safari reactor, is currently being stored in the interim storage facilities within our sites, because at this point in time, the used fuel, the country still needs to dictate a direction as to whether we go for final repository or if we go for recycling and reuse in our reactors. So we await those policy direction, but in the meantime, the National Red Waste Disposal Institute is actually responsible for ensuring that we've got a stable approach in terms of our waste management and waste handling. I think as a flavor, this brings a broad introduction to the nuclear sector. If you can go to the next slide. In that the nuclear industry in South Africa is well established with a robust regulatory system. As you can tell, our reactor, Safari reactor, has been operating safely since 1965. It's reaching its end of life, and we are looking forward to installing a new reactor so that we can continue and have the market footprint that we have in terms of our isotopes and in the broader nuclear industry. And with Koeberg, the two power units since 1984-85, and they are also in looking at life extension of Koeberg beyond 2024-2025 for another 20 years. And in parallel to that, there is also the new nuclear power plants that are being looked at to the value of 2,500 as a starting point. I must state that South Africa is among the top 4 producers of radioisotopes in the world. So we actually occupy a very niche position, and some of these isotopes are provided or supplied to Korea. And as Ambassador Shujopak mentioned, when we actually signed the Memorandum of Understanding with the Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute in October the 13th, it was actually quite great to see what synergies there are and what it is that we are supplying to Korea, and also looking forward to mutually beneficial transactions going forward. So it's an exciting phase in the history of Korea and South Africa in the nuclear space. Also, I want to state that in terms of the nuclear power in South Africa generates less than 5%. However, the energy is slightly higher than the installed capacity, which talks to the installed capacity and the reliable baseload generation that it provides, and is central to our grid stabilization because we have quite a massive grid. Nuclear waste management is strictly managed through our regulations, the strict adherence to the international safeguard protocols. It is actually quite gratifying that we work very closely with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and in terms of our safeguard protocols, we have not experienced anything that has really warranted a heavy hand from the International Atomic Energy Agency. We've complied to all our safeguard protocols in an international space, as well as locally. Then last but not least, it is crucial that South Africa retains and increases its role in the nuclear field. And I think the partnership with Korea will certainly take us in the right direction, because Korea has got an established base for nuclear power plants. It's got an established base through the KERI, Korean Atomic Energy Research Institute. And we really look forward to future collaborations in this regard. With that, thank you very much, and back to you, moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tiawashe. That's a very insightful presentation. We will now be hearing the Korean side of the opportunities in nuclear energy, and we will specifically be hearing from Dr. Cha Yong Lim, who is the Senior Vice President for Innovative Nuclear Reactor System at the Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute, or KERI. Previously, he was in charge of Nuclear Policy Division and Research Project Management Division of KERI. Since he joined the KERI in 1998, he was mainly working on studies for drafting National Nuclear Promotion Policy and the Electricity Expansion Plan. He was also a member of the National Energy Committee, which consults the Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy about major energy policy issues. He received a Bachelor of Science in Nuclear Engineering from Seoul National University and earned a Master's and PhD in Nuclear Engineering from the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Dr. Lim, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction. Ambassador Janani Dlamini, Ambassador Cholchu-Bak, my dear friend, distinguished guest, and ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to have a chance to share information about nuclear energy industry in South Korea. Let me start with the global view. In the world, there are 443 operational reactors and 51 reactors under construction. Nuclear power provides about 10% of the world electricity. Korea ranks 6th in the world in terms of number of operational reactors and net capacity. Korea ranks 5th in terms of nuclear power generation last year, after the United States, China, France, and Russia. As you might know, Korea has achieved remarkable progress in its nuclear energy development domestically and internationally as well. As a result of successful nuclear energy development, Korea has enjoyed cheap, plentiful, and reliable electricity. Currently, 24 units are in operation, providing almost 30% of total electricity in Korea last year, and 4 units of APR 1400 are under construction. Another 4 units of APR 1400 are in the United Kingdom of Arab Emirates, 1 unit in operation, and 3 units under construction. In Korea, 2 ministries and 2 commissions are governing nuclear energy policies and regulations. The Nuclear Safety and Security Commission, NSSC, was established in October 2011 after the Fukushima accident to strengthen the administration of nuclear safety regulation. The Atomic Energy Promotion Commission, AEC, chaired by the Prime Minister, reviews and approves the national policy, development plans, and other important matters related to the utilization of nuclear energy. The Minister of Science and ICT takes responsible for nuclear policy, R&D, radiation utilization promotion, human resource development, and international cooperation. The Minister of Trade, Industry, and Energy takes responsibility for nuclear industry promotion and radioactive waste management. Let me spend some time on these slides. With continuous buildup of nuclear power plants, Korean nuclear industry has been maintaining very sound supply chain in the area of construction planning, design and engineering, equipment manufacturing, construction, operation and maintenance, nuclear fuel fabrication, and radioactive waste management. This robust supply chain and remarkable operational records were successful factors for the first export of nuclear power plant to the UAE. Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, KHNP, is the sole nuclear operator in Korea. KHNP is one of the subsidiaries of KEPCO, Korea Electric Power Corporation. KEPCO ENC, which is another subsidiary of KEPCO, has very good expertise in designing nuclear power plant. Doosan Heavy Industry Corporation, DHIC, is a well-known major nuclear equipment manufacturer in the world. DHIC supplies major components of APR 1400 Korean nuclear power plant and those of AP 1000 as a Westinghouse model as well. Construction companies in Korea shows their excellent capacities in numerous construction projects of foreign countries. We Korea barely have natural uranium resources, so upstream part of nuclear fuel cycle such as uranium mining, conversion, and enrichment are mainly carried out outside of Korea. Nuclear fuel cycle business in Korea begins at the point of fuel fabrication of KEPCO NF. We don't have any companies who are specialized in nuclear decommissioning. Decommissioning business in Korea is now beginning period. Some of companies I have mentioned are spin-off from my institute, Korea Atomic Energy Research Institute. Historically, KERI played a role as a kind of incubating organization. We are very proud of that role. Continuous improvement of Korean reactors finally led to the export of Korean research reactor and nuclear power plant. As you all know, KEPCO Consortium is building 4 APR 1400 in the UAE. The first unit was completed in 2017 and started commercial operation this year. KERI Consortium completed in 2016 the construction of the Jordan Research and Test Reactor successfully and handed it over to Jordan in 2019. KERI completed pre-project engineering work for SMART, a small modular reactor, with KCARE of Saudi Arabia in 2018. Korea is continuously searching for other opportunities for export of power reactors, research reactors, and small modular reactors. I believe Korea is still in good shape in nuclear export. KERI, my institute, has played a leading role in the advancement of science and technologies, as well as national economic growth by producing remarkable landmark achievement during its over 60-year history. Such achievement includes self-reliance of nuclear steam supply system, design of Korean standard nuclear power plant, the localization of both CANDU and PWR fuels, the indigenous design of the Hanaro research reactor, the development of advanced fuel claddings, export of research reactor to Jordan, development and standard design certification of SMART, a small modular reactor, and many others. Let me talk about future reactor development plan in Korea. Korean government firmly support the nuclear technology development for the future. Atomic Energy Promotion Committee accept the plan for future reactor development in last December. Based on the roadmap in the plan, we will develop the new small modular reactor called ISMR and Generation 4 reactors. Let me briefly introduce the ISMR development plan. We have a plan to obtain the design certificate of the Korean regulatory body by year 2028. If you have design certificate, it means you are ready to build. KHMP has started the conceptual design of ISMR, and Kerry plays technical leading role in beginning stage. Our target is very clear. That is to develop the world's best SMR in its safety and economics. You can see some quantitative targets to achieve on the screen. I don't want to go into technical details. However, the bottom line is that ISMR will be one of the safest and most economical and the most business-friendly SMR in the world. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. We Kerry always welcome and are ready for cooperation and collaboration with South Africa for the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Let's work together for the better tomorrow. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lim, for your insightful presentation. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, which is Mr. Sophia Boerman-Magoro, Head of the Independent Power Producer Office in South Africa. Mr. Magoro is a registered professional electrical engineer with more than 20 years of experience in various technical and leadership roles within the electricity supply industry. At the IPP office, he leads the team responsible for the procurement of power from independent power producers on behalf of the South African Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. Prior to joining the IPP office, Mr. Magoro was the general manager at Eskom, responsible for the system operator and Eskom telecommunications, where his key role was the management of South Africa's electricity grid. He has been at the helm of the grid operator during one of the most challenging times due to generation capacity shortages. He has also been involved in the integration of the various electricity generation technologies into the grid, including coal and renewable energy. He holds an electrical engineering degree from UCT and an MBA from Wits Business School. Mr. Magoro, over to you.
Sorry, I was looking for the mute button. Thank you very much, Annalise, for the introduction. Honorable Ambassador Dlamini and Ambassador Park, we are honored to have you in this session. Greetings to other panel members and the participants that joined us this morning. I am going to share with you the South African experience with renewable energy introduction. And then I'll also touch on where to from here. We've got a lot of opportunities in this space in South Africa going forward. And lastly, I will just conclude by touching on some of those opportunities that are available. Just a little bit about us as the office. We are an agency of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, where our mandate is purely to facilitate private sector investment in the power generation in South Africa. We have made a lot of progress, which I will share with you in a minute. Where we are now, the office was established around 2010 And this is the amount of energy that we have managed to procure in the last 10 years. We currently have 92 projects that have been procured. About 81 of them are already in operation, producing just over 5,000 megawatts. Just to give a context, the total installed capacity in South Africa, it's about 50 gigawatts, and then 5,000 of which is renewable energy, which is largely coming from IPPs. And then the rest, which is where the opportunities comes in, we have over 30 gigawatts of coal-fired power stations, and most of which will be decommissioned in the next 10 years, and therefore giving way for more renewable energy to be integrated. At this point in time, out of the existing renewable energy integration, we're getting about 6% of our energy as a country on an annual basis. The program has managed to galvanize about 200 billion rand over the last 10 years with the capacity that we have procured. We've just finished another round now of wind and solar, which I'll share with you in the next few slides. Another important aspect to highlight here, in all our procurement programs, I think Ambassador Dlamini did touch on the fact that we have a number of challenges, especially in the socio-economic space. And therefore, when we structure our programs, we don't want to leave the communities behind. They are part of the procurement process, whereby a certain portion of the project's beneficiaries have to be delivered back to the communities where the projects are located. And this is either through the shareholdership, or we've also have a specific program which we call socioeconomic contributions. Sorry, I'm looking for. Okay, I hope you can see the cursor. But for example, in this case, 1.6 billion rand will be spent by the different projects in supporting the local communities where the projects will be located. So it's not only about offsetting the emissions, but it's also about the transformation agenda that is crucial for South Africa economic progress. Just to share with you where the investment came from, South Africa Renewable Energy Program, it's recognized across the globe. And as you can see on the screen, these are all the countries that are participating in the existing projects that are already in operation. And important to highlight that Korea is no stranger to the renewable energy space in South Africa. There has been an investment to the tune of about $10 million in 25 megawatts in Gondwana biomass project. And that project has just connected to the grid now and is currently being commissioned. And then in terms of moving forward, this is the government policy that Loiso also touched on. So what you see on this column here is the amount of generation that will be procured and developed in the next 10 years in South Africa. Important to highlight that over 20 gigawatt of the 30 gigawatt that we are set to produce in South Africa will be coming from wind and solar. And this is just one of the few areas where renewables offers opportunities in the investment space in South Africa. I'll touch on the other one later on at the end. But this is very important to notice that we are going to decarbonize the South African grid in the next 10 years. And this present opportunities for investors in all different generation technology mix that you see on the screen. So what has already been delegated to the IPP office to procure is what you see there under determination, which has been approved by the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. And in terms of that determination, this is the capacity that we're going to procure. There's 4,800 megawatts of wind, 2,000 of solar, 3,000 of gas, battery storage, coal, and there was another agent procurement which we concluded early this year of about 2,000 megawatts. So this is happening as we speak, and all of this capacity will be procured within the next year or so. Just a little bit more detail. We've just concluded this renewable energy bid window 5. I'll touch on it in the next 2 slides, where we're procuring 2,600 megawatts of renewables, wind and solar. In January next year, we are releasing bid window 6, again, procuring another 2,600 megawatts of wind and solar. At the same time, we'll also be releasing battery storage program. Again, this is all going to IPPs. And then before end of Q1 in 2022, we are planning to also release these 2 programs as well, 3,000 megawatts of gas and 1,500 megawatts of coal. And then during the year, there's still a remaining capacity of 1,000 megawatts of wind, which we are planning to release again in the first half of 2022. Just highlights of the recent bid window 5 program. We had a huge responses from the market with 102 bid responses to the tune of just under 10 gigawatts subscription for the 2,600 megawatts that we recently procured. And this shows the amount of confidence that this program has brought in to the renewable energy investment in South Africa. And we are going to build on this program and the success stories as we move into the next bid window rounds. Again, this is just a summary of some of the contributions that this bid window in particular has made to the South African economy, with the job opportunities, the investment of 50 billion rand for the construction of this capacity, and most importantly, the commitment to support the communities where the projects will be located to the tune of 2.5 billion rand over the next 20-year PPA term. And just another highlight of the program, we for the first time had wind as the cheapest of the projects that have been successful, the 25 projects that have been successful, at just over 2 US cents per kilowatt hour. And the average price, if you look at the whole portfolio, sitting at about 47 cents, South African cents, which is around 3 US cents per kilowatt hour, which was such a significant achievement for the program in South Africa. And we are also seeing that all the other provinces are now participating, taking a piece of the program as we move forward, which is encouraging to ensure that the future investment is spread across the country. This one is just showing you how far we have come from the first round of renewable energy procurement in South Africa. If you look at the prices in today's terms, April 2021, back in 2011, this is the price of energy today, 3 rand per kilowatt hour. And then bid window 2, which was around 2013, 2014, 2 rand per kilowatt hour. But you can see where bid window 5 came in at 0.47 rand or 47 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, this shows the market maturity for renewable energy in South Africa. So in conclusion, we believe that South Africa is a safe destination for renewable energy space. And the government has selected this particular area of renewable energy as one of the strategic infrastructure programs, the SIP, where it's going to be a focus area. And what that means is that the government, all government agencies have to rally behind the program for any authorizations and permits that needs to be given for parties who are participating in this program. They will be given special treatment to make sure that we fast track the rollout of the renewable energy sector. So we will be building on the successes that we made in the last 10 years as we roll out the 20 gigawatt in the next 10 years. And also importantly is the just energy transition, which Eskom is also working on to try and make sure that those communities that were previously reliant on areas where coal mining and coal power generation were located are not left behind as we introduced renewable energy in the country. And some of the opportunities, I mean, manufacturing sector, we see that with the 20 gigawatts that we'll be procuring, this is a springboard for local manufacturing, which again will also support the rest of the continent. So there are a lot of opportunities for investment in manufacturing of the different components for renewable energy, but also, you know, project development, EPC, O&M. There are opportunities there as well. And another important area which is growing very fast in South Africa and the rest of the region in the SADC area is the green hydrogen. And there is, again, a lot of opportunities, both for internal consumption of hydrogen, but also for the export as well. And then last but not least, we have seen that the network is becoming a challenge, especially in the areas where there is high yield of renewable energy. And that is where the focus will also be to make sure that we develop our grid as fast as possible to get the investment in those areas where we get more yield for renewable energy. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, panelists, and all the participants for listening to our presentation. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Magoro. Indeed, very exciting times in the South African renewable energy industry, and we look forward to also seeing increased investment from Korean companies. It is now time for our second to last speaker. We are running slightly behind schedule, but we are hoping to make up time. Dr. Kang Won Kim has been the team leader at the Korea Energy Agency since 2018. And he has vast project experience working for the Korea Energy Agency, amongst others working on the Renewable Energy Plan and Renewable Fuel Standards. Dr. Kim will be presenting on the renewable energy industry in South Korea. Over to you, Dr. Kim.
Good morning. Thanks so much for coming. I am Kang Won Kim, in charge of UN Renewable Energy Policy team from Korea Energy Agency. We will discussing Korea renewable policy for carbon neutrality by 2050. Last year, in 2020, the Republic of Korea proclaimed at the national level that it would reach carbon neutrality, a state of net zero carbon dioxide emissions, by 2050 in energy consumption across all industries and society. One of the motivation behind this carbon neutral policy for the Green New Deal was to join the international community, such as the EU and United States and China, in overcoming the global economic crisis caused by COVID-19. On the other hand, even with such attempts by the international community, the Republic of Korea is still dominated by an energy intensity industrial structure, such as steel and petrochemical. In terms of energy supply systems, Korea has a poor structure with nearly 40% coal-fired power mix, which is higher than Japan with 32% and the United States with 24%. Despite this domestic condition, however, the United States and the EU are examining carbon border tax. Consequently, we are considering the expansion of RE 100 to correspond to ESG measurement, along with the change in the pure economy standard for the EU automobiles. Under the vision shifting from the adaptive reduction to proactive response, the Korean government will implement various policies to simultaneously achieve carbon neutrality, economic growth, and quality of life. To be specific, we are planning to pursue the 10 detailed tasks under the 3+1 policy direction. We have listed the additional 10 detailed tasks which you can find in the attached slide. Next, we have the renewable energy policy sector, or core policy that can ensure the performance and carbon neutrality in 2050. The Korean government is establishing a renewable energy plan every 5 years. The plan we have here is the 5th plan, which was announced at the end of last year. And the plan will last up until 2034. Under this plan, the target for the proportion of new and renewable energy power supply is at 25.58%, 22.2% for renewable energy, and 3.6% for new energy until 2034. For this, we plan to secure 84 gigawatt of power generation facilities. This plan reflects in the base plan of long-term electric demand and supply. And as shown in the table at the bottom of the slide, renewable energy currently plays most of the role in the place of coal-fired power, showing that that energy conversion is indeed in the full swing. We are preparing to recognize various fields to achieve the goal mentioned in the previous slide. First, we plan discover promising energy source that acceptably as pursue the public and community deployment method of combining it with the already existing private-oriented development method. Second, we plan to strengthen technology development and strengthen energy security by securing core materials as renewable energy is highlighted as the main source of energy. Third, as renewable energy is expanding, the current power system will be further advanced. We plan to strengthen flexibility for the mutual organic combination of supply, demand, and storage resource, and introduce an AC-DC hybrid system. Finally, we plan to build a foundation for various hydrogen utilization, especially for introducing a green hydrogen mandatory system based on renewable energy. We have explained the 2030 short-term plan so far. Now we will be introducing the plan for 2050 carbon neutrality, which requires long-term preparation. First, we are preparing to expand our resource potential. Basically, we are aiming to improve efficiency through technology development and actually discover places that have not been used before, such as the walls of buildings. Specific goals are to improve the current solar efficiency of about 17% to 14% by 2050, and increase wind power generation capacity from 3 megawatt to 20 megawatt per unit. In addition, we plan to prepare for the recognition of the supply system of expand the RPS system currently operated by the central government to local governments. Next, we have the efficiency improved system. We plan to strengthen technology development not only in the solar and wind power sector, but also in the high efficiency required hydrogen sectors to significantly expand the current power generation of 13 kilowatt-hour per kilogram to 5 kilowatt-hour. Also, we plan to secure a stable supply base along with recycling materials. In addition to this, we must see a big change in the field of power systems. As renewable energy continues to expand, the burden of the system is expected to increase due to renewable energy, volatility, and uncertainty. As a countermeasure, we are preparing a system that enforces inertia and frequency control obligations on renewable energy facility and enable to auto demand response. In addition, we plan to construct a battery centered short-term storage system, as well as a long-term storage system to cope with this seasonal demand. In addition, the Korea power grid, which are currently a closed network, and the North Asian supergrid, which is linked to China and Russia, will so consult with neighboring countries. Lastly, we are preparing for the expansion of green hydrogen along with an energy market integration plan. We expand the use of clean hydrogen from renewable energy throughout power generation, transportation, and industries. We are preparing to integrate this expanded market using sector coupling technology. We find it necessary that this integrated renewable energy market also be integrated with demand resource in the future. According to the IEA's forecast, achieving carbon neutrality by 2050 requires effort of not only in supplying renewable energy, but also in areas such as energy efficiency and electrification. To achieve this, we are planning to consider market integration in various methods, such as demand supply market convergence. This concludes the presentation on Korea's renewable energy policy. Thank you for paying attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. Very interesting presentation and very ambitious targets for the Republic of Korea. Our last, but certainly not least, speaker for today is Mr. Sun Hyuk Yoon. He is the former CEO and president of Samsung Africa, with unique experience across 3 continents, including 16 years in the US and 4 years in Africa. He has a proven track record of turning around difficult business situations and significantly growing both new and existing business categories. He's an expert in tailoring global business strategies to suit the needs of each market and hands-on technical sales across numerous product categories. A respectful leader and respected leader who strives to build meaningful relationships with both customers and employees. Mr. Yoon, looking forward to hearing your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Annalisa, for your great introduction. Okay, can you hear me well? I think. So today, I would like to share my personal experience about doing business in South Africa. So let me introduce myself. Next slide, please. I'm Sung Yoon. And in the last 4 years, I was CEO and president of Samsung Electronics Africa, based in South Africa, Johannesburg. While I held that position, Samsung has achieved the BBB level 1, which I will share what it is and how we have done it. Also, I supervised the operation of over 300 employees in South Africa and oversaw Samsung Electronics operation in the entire African continent. Prior to joining Samsung Africa, I worked at Samsung Electronics America for 16 years, covering various roles: IT products, TV and consumer electronics, and mobile communication products, selling products through big global companies like Best Buy, AT&T. In total, I worked for Samsung for 32 years. Next slide. Yes, that one. And Alicia, do you see the bridge on your screen?
Yes. We can still see the presentation.
Okay. So now look at the older bridge over the river. Some of you may think it seems very dangerous to cross. So Annalise, how do you think? How dangerous it is?
It looks pretty dangerous.
Okay, thank you. So there are three ways of action patterns that many companies can take. First, cross the bridge without thinking or testing at all, right? And second pattern is keep testing the bridge, how strong it is to cross, but never cross the bridge. And third pattern is just like a Samsung style. Let me tell you, that's a Samsung style. So we immediately organized the task force team to do a couple of testing of the bridge, and they normally make the final decision immediately on whether to go or not. So think about why I put this bridge looking very dangerous, unknown risk. Samsung Electronics has been doing business in South Africa over 25 years. 25 years. And I was there, as I explained to you briefly, 4 years. Think of why. Why do you think Samsung Electronics keep doing business in South Africa? That's what I want to share with you briefly. I can see the future opportunities in South Africa. It is a growing country in a developing continent. Right? As I explained to you, I worked 16 years in Samsung America with various roles, right? And at the end, I stayed in South Africa over 4 years, and it proves we see a huge opportunities in South Africa, and that's what I want to share it with you, right? That can be consumer electronics, that can be energy, or that can be other construction opportunities. Next one is contents. Be relaxed. My part is really easy for you to understand. Why do business in South Africa? That's what I want to share with you. And empowering South Africans. Okay. So today we learned a lot from previous speakers. We are looking for energy business opportunities in South Africa today. I can tell you Korean companies who are attending today event and all the other global companies. I want to share that South Africa has a huge potential for growth in the energy sector. On the right upper corner, you see a slide photo, right? Which we called load shedding, and you see robot. By the way, we call robot as a traffic light in South Africa. So the power shortage is a big concern in South Africa, and load shedding means planned blackout. So look at the picture, and at the rush hour, when we have this load shedding, the traffic jam is quite difficult disaster. So almost every day, we experience difficulties due to load shedding. So on the other hand, I'm a salesperson and businessman. It is great opportunity for us to fix it by utilizing South Africa's untapped renewable energy resources, including nuclear energy as well. So there are, as I told you, and previous speakers shared, there are huge opportunities with the solar energy, hydrogen, and nuclear power. I did a short research about renewable energy comparison chart on the right, the down corner. So it's a little IBG chart, but you can see the cost of hydrogen production cost comparison. The black, the red color is more competitive than the blue color for this one. So South Africa, the cost of producing the green hydrogen is around $1.30 versus rest of the world is over $3, including Korea. So in terms of the environment, South Africa has one of the best condition in the world for the future. So we all know how to make CO2 zero by 2050. So as we heard today, South Africa is a leading nation in sub-Saharan regions, including African Continental Free Trade Area and African Union. And for me, not just the energy itself, think about South African logistic location. It's close to Europe, close to America, and close to Asia. So I can tell you that's a very strategic location for global business, including energy. So now let's talk about empowering South Africa. I'm not going to go through the details at all, but while I was staying there, so understanding South Africa history and the culture will help for me to fix all the issues running business in South Africa. In the left upper corner, you see Nelson Mandela, who were in prison over 27 years, including 18 years in Robben Island. On the left upper corner, second picture, you can see my face. I was in Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was in prison 17 years. So that means understanding South African history and culture, then we will see how we can do all meet the requirement. So simply speaking, if you understand what the forgive without forgetting means, you will understand how to do the business in South Africa and align with the government guidance. For example, Samsung, we got BBB level 1. When I joined Samsung South Africa in 2017, the analysis, we were at level 7. I know DTI team we had a lot of meetings. So how we can achieve a level 1, the highest rank ever, is by the aligned with the guidance. So it's not that much difficult. So the only one thing I can share is there are a couple of categories, 5 key categories in the BBBE to run a business in South Africa. The first one is ownership. So Samsung and many global companies, they don't share their ownership with the local part. So we decide to go EEIP. EEIP is the acronym for the Equity Equivalent Investment Plan Program, so which aligned with DTI's guidance. So by doing that, it was not 1 year. It took almost 3 years to achieve level 1 position, which help us to participate all the government tenders and getting more credit. So by doing that type of the alignment with the government guidance, I think energy is huge potential, as I told you. I was not in energy business, but I'm learning, and I learned a lot from today's the seminar. So again, not just the South Korea, all global world, it's time we pay more attention on South Africa, why they need more the energy, more renewable energy, including nuclear energy type of thing. So that's my short presentation for today. And I hope you feel a little comfortable. 2 things. Samsung, one of the global company, has been doing business in South Africa over 24 years, 5 years. And I was there 4 years without any serious risk at all. So feel comfortable, and if you want to contact me, I'm really open to share my more experience. Thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry for your incredibly inspiring words. Thank you very much. And for being such a wonderful ambassador promoting South Africa. I think we have now reached the end of today's proceedings. We have been informed that all questions that were posted on the virtual platform will be sent to the relevant speakers and will be addressed directly with you via email. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our speakers and participants today. I think we have all learned a lot. We have heard about the general trade and investment environments in each other's countries. We have heard about opportunities in the nuclear energy sector, in the renewable energy sector, and then we also received some very, very wise and valuable words from Mr. Yoon. Your Excellencies, ambassadors, thank you very much for your participation today. And to our audience, live audience, thank you very much for tuning in and attending today's session. Before we end our session, I'm going to ask our panelists to just stay online for 1 second after the recording is finished, so that we can take a group photograph. Thank you very much, everyone, today, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.